What is up, guys? Delboy here. A quick preview for Lucas Big Daddy Browne versus Dave the White Rhino Allen. This fight goes down on the 20th of April and it takes place at the O2 Arena in London. This bout does have that crossroads fight type feel to it, in a sense where the loser, is really on a hard road back. Especially Lucas Browne. By the time this fight happens, Lucas Browne will be 40, and a loss to the likes of Dave Allen really would be the final nail in his career, and after that he would really struggle to come back. And as for Dave Allen, he's a guy who he's never really taken boxing seriously. He's got a record of 16 wins, 4 defeats, 2 draws. He's got a few wins back to back now, and he's got himself in this position. He seems to be taking it seriously, he seems to be training, but a loss to this version of Lucas Browne, again, it would be a big blow. I'm not saying Dave Allen couldn't go on to have some success at domestic level if he were to lose to Lucas Browne, but a defeat to this version of Lucas Browne really would put a dampener on any further ambitions beyond domestic level. So I do believe this fight has consequence for the loser, and that does make it interesting, I guess. But there's something about this fight that I'm not really drawn to. There's something about it that's putting me off. I'm just not really that intrigued about it. Maybe it's because of both guys' careers today. Dave Allen, like I mentioned, he's turned up for some fights in terrible shape. He's admitted himself, for numerous fights he's never really trained. And all in all, he's had many opportunities and he's come up short. Now, it's not the coming up short that bothers me, I'm not bothered about that. What bothers me with Dave Allen is the fact that he's had these chances and he's not given it his all. That to me is unforgivable, especially when there's a lot of young fighters out there who would kill to have the TV dates that Dave Allen's had. To me that's unforgivable. So I'm not that receptive to Dave Allen, I've got to say. And as for Lucas Browne, I kind of see him similar. Go back to his last high-profile fight against Dillian Whyte. He obviously got knocked out in that fight, but look at the shape he turned up in that fight. Disgraceful, overweight, slow, ponderous, unfit, terrible performance, woefully underprepared. And bear in mind, a couple of years before that, he actually beat Ruslan Shagayev in Russia for the regular WBA heavyweight title, and in that fight he knocked Shagayev out, but he went into that fight in career best shape, and after that fight he tested positive twice for PEDs. So, was this guy just on PEDs that fight? Who knows? But after that fight he was in terrible shape, and even several fights before that Shagayev fight he was in terrible shape. So, Lucas Browne himself, does he take the life seriously? Does he really love the sport like that? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. So, listen, I'm not really a big believer in both guys. I'm not really invested in both guys. But maybe it could be a good, fun slugfest. Lucas Browne, he's a big lump. He can punch. He does have genuine punching power. And, Dave Allen, defensively, he's pretty poor, but he's very tough, got a good chin, and he himself can crack. So, maybe we're going to get two big lumps, swinging big shots at each other. And maybe we could get a good fun trade fight as a result. That could be possible. I could see this fight being a fun watch. I could. But on the flip side, I could also see this fight being a bit dull, a bit boring, and lacking in quality. Dave Allen himself, he's a guy who historically has always been a low output fighter. How many times have you heard people say, oh, Dave Allen, he needs to let go of his hands more? We hear that criticism all the time, and rightly so. If he goes into this fight passive and not letting go of his hands, that could result in it being a boring fight. But also, Lucas Browne himself, he's not the most active guy, and especially at 40 years old, this guy isn't what he was, and he was never great to begin with. Don't be surprised if you see Lucas Browne pouring with that jab, falling short with that right hand, and initiating a load of clinching up close. Don't be surprised to see that. It's not guaranteed to be a good fight. It's not guaranteed to be a barn burner. I do believe there's a possibility that this fight could be a bit of a stinker. I'm not saying it is going to be, but I do believe this fight has that potential. I don't think it's one of those fights where you look at it and say, this is definitely going to be a good fight. You know, it's not like a Jaime Munguia versus Jarrett Hurd, where that fight couldn't be anything other than a bloodbath. I do believe this fight has the potential to be ugly, messy, and boring. Not saying it will be, but it has that potential. Who do I think is going to win? I mean, it really is hard to say. Dave Allen, you know, he's not really won above area level, let's be honest about it. Maybe English title level, if we're being generous. And that was against Nick Webb. That is Dave Allen's best win, and every time he stepped up above that level, he's been comprehensively beaten. He lost every round to Dillian Whyte. He lost every round and got stopped by Luis Ortiz. He got beaten up by Tony Yoka. And even against Lenroy Thomas, who is a Commonwealth level fighter, he got comprehensively outboxed. Look at what Joe Joyce did to Lenroy Thomas. Lenroy Thomas really isn't that great. He isn't. And that first Lenroy Thomas fight, that wasn't that close. I know the fight was judged a split decision, but go back and watch it. Thomas clearly won. I mean, how good is Dave Allen really? Is this guy even domestic level? And what I mean by that, is he British level? No wins on his career resume to date proves that he is. So even this version of Lucas Browne, who is past his best, is Dave Allen good enough to beat him? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I've not really seen anything to say that he is. But at the same time, how far gone is Lucas Browne? To me, Lucas Browne looks pretty far gone. He does look well past his best. I mean, like I said earlier, he got badly knocked out by Dillian Whyte, and he was never really competitive in that fight. Since then, he's beat 3 journeymen, and one of those journeymen were Kamil Sokolovsky, and in that fight, Lucas Browne got dropped and arguably lost. In that fight, Lucas Browne was trying to box with his jab, he was trying to move his feet, but he looked horrible doing it. So maybe Lucas Browne is just shot to bits to the extent where he can't compete at any real decent level. That could be a possibility. But at the same time, you can look at that Sokolovsky fight and say, well, would Dave Allen beat Sokolovsky? And that's a genuine question. You may say, well, Sokolovsky's a journeyman, of course Dave Allen beats him, but he's a very good journeyman. I've not seen anything to indicate that I would definitely pick Dave Allen to beat him on fair scorecards. So maybe that Sokolovsky fight isn't really a good indicator, because we don't even know if Dave Allen could beat Sokolovsky. It's a hard fight to call. If Lucas Browne tries to jab and move like he did against Sokolovsky and like he did against Shagayev when he won that belt, I still think he'll give Dave Allen problems. Dave Allen doesn't like movement. Dave Allen doesn't like a jab in his face. Dave Allen doesn't like fighting at range. If Lucas Browne decides to box, as limited and basic as he is, I don't think Dave Allen wins a boxing match with him, if I'm being honest. He could counter Lucas Browne if Lucas Browne throws that lazy jab from his waist, what he was doing against Sokolovsky. He could counter Browne, but could he outbox Lucas Browne in a battle of the jabs? I don't think so. I really don't think so. So I could see a scenario where Lucas Browne is kind of moving, using his jab, going back to those tactics he used against Shagayev, and I could see him having success with that game plan early on. But can Lucas Browne carry that out for 12 rounds? I'm not so sure. 39 years old, he'll be 40 by the time this fight happens. I'm not sure he can fight 12 rounds like that. Even against a guy in Dave Allen who doesn't really apply world-class pressure, I still don't think Lucas Browne can box on the back foot for 12 rounds without gassing and slowing down drastically. I just don't think he has that in his locker, to be honest with you. Unless he's on those, PEDs, I cannot see that happening. And eventually he will slow down. And when he slows down, it's whether Dave Allen is good enough to take advantage, to be honest. Can Dave Allen drag Lucas Browne into a war after a few rounds, a war of attrition? Yeah, potentially. Dave Allen has a better chin. Arguably, he has more fire in his belly. So if it comes down to that, maybe you would favour Dave Allen. But at the same time, even if it is a bit of a war and a brawl, You know, you can't afford to walk onto a big Lucas Browne right hand because the last thing to go is power. And I do believe Lucas Browne has the power to knock Dave Allen out. So if I'm being honest, I really don't know how to call this fight. I could see Lucas Browne knocking Dave Allen out. I could see Lucas Browne grinding out a close points win. And also I could see Dave Allen knocking out Lucas Browne. One thing I can't really see is Dave Allen winning on points for whatever reason. I just don't see him being active enough. Maybe he could win a bogus decision, but I can't see him winning a fair decision on the cards. I really can't. So I believe Dave Allen's best chance is by knockout. And yeah, I think this fight's really hard to call, to be honest. In fact, I think I am going to sit on the fence with this one. I'm just not sure. Share your thoughts below. How do you see this fight going? Peace.